the daddy letters. Letter 10. Be a great communicator.
Standing by.
Dear daughters, I remember tripping and falling on a hike. I ended up with several scrapes and bruises. These were painful injuries, but they healed quickly, and I was back on the trail hiking again. Unfortunately, I fell again later and suffered a puncture wound in my thigh. This time, it took a long time to heal because the injury was deep, almost to the bone. Criticism is a lot like these two different injuries. If you criticize something your husband does, such as forgetting to take the trash out or cutting you off mid-sentence, the criticism scrapes and bruises, but it heals quickly and things get back to normal. However, if you criticize your husband for who he is, it is like inflicting a deep puncture wound, and it will take a long time to heal, and it may even leave him walking with a limp. It is very easy to communicate carelessly with our mates because, as they say, familiarity breeds contempt. Second only to finances, poor communications is the most potent poison to marital tranquility. The difficulty of communicating skillfully is often not recognized. However, just because we passed our English courses in school doesn't mean we know how to communicate skillfully, especially in dating and marriage. Unfortunately, very few dates or mates recognize the extraordinary importance of developing this skill, or how hard it is to get good at it, therefore little effort is put towards its mastery. Communication affects almost everything about marriage, from raising the kids, managing finances, recreational activities, religion, managing conflict, making decisions, to romance. Romantically speaking, communications especially affects whether or not your mate believes you like them. Let me explain. Romance thrives best when the two parties not only love each other, but also like each other. The song says, "What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing there's just too little of." But I say, what marriage needs is like, sweet like. It's the marital glue that there is just too little of. Tragically, too many couples who love each other don't really like each other. But if you want an epic love affair, you must cultivate mutual like, along with mutual love. How? The way couples communicate is key. Poor communications are often the culprit for couples falling out of favor with each other. There are all types of communications necessary for a healthy relationship, such as sharing information, resolving differences of opinions, reminiscences, collaboration, and so on. But from a romantic standpoint, the most important type of communication is mutual affirmation, which is a special type of compliment. Affirmations tell us that we are appreciated for who we are, as well as what we do. Affirmational communication skills don't come easily or naturally, so a lot of thought and practice is required to reach mastery. A good practice to help you become more affirmational to your mate is to sit down with a tablet, and then list all the things you like about who your husband is. Ask your husband to engage in the same exercise, and then use the material to sprinkle affirmations into your daily conversations. Affirming words sink deep into the psyche of the receiver, and in turn cause the liked person to like the liker. You can't help but like a mate who regularly affirms you for being you, especially when their affirmations are specific and clear. An example of an affirmation with specificity is, "Honey, I stand in awe of your sharp intellect." His intellect is part of who he is, and your specific focus upon it removes ambiguity from your compliment. Romance is ignited between the ears, and expressed by the body. Men are 90% ego, and affirmations rub the back of his ego, creating a bounce back of appreciation to you. If a person doesn't like his mate, passion will smolder instead of burning bright. Like is the ground in which romance is planted, and romance is the tree from which passionate fruit is plucked. So, girls, stop and think before you open your mouth. You need to develop an instantaneous filter that predicts how what you are about to say will be received by your husband. Don't speak from your feelings, or from your heart, because both these are tricksters that have little regard for truth, reason, relationship, or the emotional well-being of others. Replace angry thoughts and hurt feelings with the memory of what made your mate so precious to you in the first place, and let those memories be the filter through which you hear and speak. Be careful not to see ghosts and apparitions of ill will in your mate where they don't exist, lest by your accusing words, you conjure up demons that before did not exist. For example, if you accuse your mate often enough of not loving you, over time it is likely to become true. If you constantly rail upon him about not caring about your feelings, it won't be long before he doesn't. A better communication approach is to ask for validation and clarification of his actions that are causing your emotions. For instance, you could ask, Am I off base feeling like I bore you? That is much better than saying, I know you think I am a boring woman by the way you listen more attentively to your female colleagues than me. A conclusive declaration, and stinging accusation like that, makes your husband feel cornered, with no way out but to attack, or retreat inside of himself. Unless you are looking for a fight, avoid accusations, even when you are 100% sure you are right. Juries have convicted many innocent people. Accusations almost irresistibly activate the fight or flight response in your mate, and wreck any path to reconciliation. Your husband may be a devout Christian, but he has not stopped being human, so if you press his fight buttons, you can pretty much expect him to lace up his boxing gloves, or run from you into his own head. Starting a sentence with the word, you, is sure to raise the eyebrows and defenses. As often as possible start the sentence with I. Say, I am hurt, I feel taken for granted. I want to understand why. I am sure there is an explanation, so please help me. I am upset and struggling with my feelings, so I need clarity. I am asking these questions because I value our relationship. I am confused. I want to preserve the trust between us by understanding your actions, and so on. Always express doubt in your position so your mate believes there is a door open to mutual understanding, and room to change your opinion. Always remember that the relationship is more important than being right, winning the argument, or making your point. Accept that a normal part of being in a relationship is being misunderstood. Expect to leave this world without your loved ones even being aware of all the wonderful gifts, sacrifices, and loving acts you have given them, and make that reality okay, because your fulfillment is in the giving itself, and not the gratitude returned. Sometimes your mate just can't see what you see or what you mean, no matter how spectacularly true, helpful, or healthy what you're saying might be. Your mate might not even see how much they mean to you because they might be staring at you through a lens of insecurity, fear, or false perceptions. Some of the most overlooked tools of communication are prayer, time, and patience. Often, it will not be your compelling arguments, rational treatise, intense reasoning, or wise words that cause your mate to understand you, or change their behavior. It will be God's intervention in their lives that changes their mind, or their own experiences and discoveries that open their eyes. Remember that a person changed against their will, is, of the same opinion still, so, wrestling them to the ground and pinning their shoulders to the mat of your winning argument, won't get you to the place of agreement and harmony you seek. Even the most evidenced truths are not enough to change minds or behaviors. Jesus presented some compelling evidence he was the Son of God, but the Pharisees just couldn't see past their own self-interest. You may pummel your husband's intellect with skillful syllogisms and patterned proofs, but their stubborn will and roiling emotions will not make them surrender to your victorious sparring or reasoning. Until their emotions, intellect, and spirit are voluntarily brought into alignment with your truth, there will be no accord. Give them your prayers, patience, and space to grow into realization. Allow the seeds of truth you have planted to germinate, water them with prayers, and give them time to push through the dark soil of human frailty into the bright light of understanding you, understanding themselves, and understanding the path to greater oneness. Also, be prepared to accept it if they never come around to your point of view, no matter how right you are or how much you've prayed. Give them grace because imperfection is the natural state of humans and our relationships. Just because your mate doesn't understand you well, doesn't mean that they don't mean well. It is not enough to say good things once. You need to say them over and over until you are sick of saying them, and then the meaning of your words might begin to pierce their cranium. Being consistent with effective and skillful communications over long periods of time is necessary to penetrate deep into his heart. Communicating effectively also requires the skillful use of symbols in the form of symbolic gestures, objects, and actions. Seek symbols that send messages such as, "You are always on my mind." "I am willing to go to great trouble to please you." "I heard you." "I miss you." "I want you." "I like it when you treat me this way." "I value you above all others." "Your happiness is my top priority," and so on. Examples of symbolic gestures, objects, and actions are, you might cancel an important meeting to spend that time with your mate instead. Come home early with an enthusiastic disposition about a romantic dinner, send him his favorite cologne, or whisper into your mate's ear how much you like being near him. Here is a list of some other useful symbols for communicating effectively: gifts, sacrifices, timing, hand-holding, eye contact, smiles, leaning in, hugs held a second longer, unsolicited compliments, listening attentively, deep conversation, vulnerability, open postures, mutual planning, enthusiasm, notes, texts, cards, date nights, shared secrets, presents, parroting back, timed repetitions, photos, favorite music, and specificity. About specificity. It uplifts the soul to hear "I love you." But it causes the soul to soar into the heavens when you tell them why you love them. Specificity is important because to give the why says something deeper than just the what. It affirms the who that your lover is to you. We all want to be loved for who we are as well as what we do. Giving the why makes your declaration credible. It says you have thought deeply about it, and therefore your proclamations are trustworthy. It shouts that you have reason for your emotional attachment to them. Specificity is especially important in apologies. To say "I am sorry for hurting your feelings" is an empty apology that essentially communicates you just want them to stop feeling angry and hurt, or you want the fight to be over. However, to say, "I am sorry for calling you a jerk," assures your mate you know what you did, and because you know what you did, you are less likely to repeat the offense. Broad blanket apologies such as, "I know I did some things wrong," say little more than you want peace between you. It offers little hope that you won't repeat the offense in the future, because you can't, or won't even identify the specific offense you need to avoid repeating. How likely is anyone to fix what they don't see, understand, or acknowledge? Not very, and his heart will know it, his intuition will sense it. There are times when accusations and you statements are appropriate. For example, when addressing immoral or destructive behaviors like drunkenness. In this case you might say, "Honey, it is unacceptable for you to keep coming home drunk." Sometimes, an open rebuke is the most loving communication you can provide, but it is not a license to be cruel. You must attack the behavior, while showing love to the person. Your goal should be to protect the relationship, but not to punish the person for hurting you. You must start first by getting your heart right, because what is in your heart will come out through your words, touch, posture, and all your communications apparatus. Start with empathy because you have faults too. Practice vulnerability and a willingness to express the pain you feel. Enter with an attitude of forgiveness and willingness to listen. If in your direct rebuke you devalue your mate, depreciate their personage, declare them unworthy of you or your love, the encounter will fail. Focus on the behavior, and be clear about the consequences attached to their behavior. You are helpless to change anyone, so end the communication by helplessly turning your mate over to God, through prayer. Always expect open rebukes to be difficult, and filled with anger, because it is human nature to respond badly to accusations even when they are accurate and deserved. The guilty party is likely to respond by attacking the accuser. Be prepared for this defensive response and lovingly stand your ground by not getting drawn into side issues, or their artful deflections. Expect your mate to turn your accusations back against you by pointing out bad things you do, or instances of you being guilty of the same thing you are accusing them of. Don't take the bait. Calmly put a pin in their accusations, and then return to the subject at hand. Not only should you be conscious of how to start the communication, but also how to end it. It should end in confidence that conflict was a healthy and expected part of the relationship. It should end with both of you recognizing that it says something good about your relationship that you were able to embrace conflict and not let it turn your hearts bitter. Some people feel that intense conflict is a sign that the relationship is unhealthy or broken. It is not, but can become that, if you believe it to be so. Don't let your false beliefs create a problem where there is none. When what is normal is seen as a problem, then doom is inevitable because normal human behavior is unavoidable. It may be necessary to pause a conversation short of reaching an understanding when the heat is rising too fast, and emotions are getting out of hand. Put the conversation on hold by reminding your mate how important they are to you, and suggesting when you should re-engage, so both of you know when to be prepared. The break could be helpful because it gives both of you time to get your emotions out of the way of your brain, as well as time to consider deeply what has been discussed. There is little time for deep consideration in the back and forth of debate. A good communicator must be mindful of timing, such as when to communicate, how long it should last, when to follow up, and when to repeat the communication. Timing is often gauged by determining when the mood, environment, provocations, preceding situations, and so on, are right for healthy dialogue. Know ahead of time your intended outcome of the communication. Let your desired outcome help you determine the techniques you use to communicate. Sometimes writing a letter is the best technique, when body language gets in the way, or you cannot finish a thought without your mate interrupting you and pulling the conversation off course. Like romance, There are volumes more I could write about communications, but I will stop here and draw your attention to Proverbs 27:5, which says, "Better is open rebuke than hidden love." Well, I haven't hidden my love for apple pie, so I must openly rebuke my girls for not bringing a single one to the family picnic last weekend. Love, Dad.